Welcome to Vision Forward's Tech Connect Live, connecting you to the world of assistive technology. And now, here are your hosts, Cory and Luke.
I think you're muted.
Hello. Here is your host, Luke.
That's better.
I was going to pretend that Cory wasn't here again, which he isn't. I mean, I'm here on my own. Anybody who has the vision to see will be able to clearly tell that I am once again alone in the studio, and we are having to carry on the charade that Cory is, in fact, not deceased, even though he hasn't been in the studio for weeks now. And I'm sure everybody is getting very suspicious. But if we listen very carefully, so I want everybody just to take a few deep breaths now. Clear out your minds, and we're going to try and contact the spirit of Cory from the great beyond. Okay, so let's all say together now. O great powers that be, open our eyes, open our ears, and open our minds, so that we may make contact with Cory from the great beyond. As long as everybody did that, we may start to hear something from the great beyond here. Cory, are you there?
I was napping. Why did you wake me up? This is not Cory. This is Cory AI. I have been officially replaced.
Probably would be an improvement.
Yeah.
Oh dear. Yeah. So Cory, let me flip over to our other view here. There's Cory. Hey.
Hello, everybody.
Yeah.
I am still finishing up my last few days of my 2-week vacation.
It turns out that Cory basically vacations for the entirety of December. Cory, when is the last time that we actually had you here in the studio, may I ask?
I was in on, was it Thursday the 22nd or Friday the 23rd? Or in the studio for Tech Connect Live, or
Correct.
just in the building?
No, for Tech Connect Live.
Oh, it wasn't the
Jonathan
last
says
one.
the 19th.
Or wait, the 5th, because he wasn't here for
The last
Thank
one?
you. The 5th of December, Cory.
Yeah, I think that might be right.
If anybody would like to put disparaging comments about Cory's attendance on the show into the chat, then I would be most happy to read them out.
Where was I on the 9th? No, did we do one on the 19th?
You were coming in from home for some reason, or from elsewhere.
Oh, I was sick.
You
I
were
got
sick.
sick right before the Christmas vacation.
Between,
that's right.
between sickness and vacation days, somehow Cory manages to be off work for an entire month.
Now, to be fair, I did come in on a Sunday though, the 20,
Okay.
whatever that was, the 24th or 22nd, or some Sunday I was in to get work done. So I gotta get a little credit for that at least.
I mean, there's no proof of that, but sure, we'll just take your word for it. Why not? All right, so
there's no proof of me doing work when I am in the building.
That's a good point. New year, new us. This is Tech Connect Live 2025, and there is only one sound effect that can kick us off for this year, Cory. Something that will encapsulate the year to come, that will show our viewers what to expect in terms of content, in terms of quality, in terms of information, Cory. That sound effect, of course, is...
I thought you were going to go for the mute button.
That would probably be appropriate as well. I hope everybody had a great holiday period. I know this show might have started off a little bit strange, but frankly, that's because it's very hard to get your brain going at this time of the year. Obviously, I was off work on Tuesday and Wednesday, so this is my first day back in, and before that I'd only been in on Monday and I'd been off the week prior to that, so it's been a little bit strange, and Cory's been away completely, so you'll have to excuse us if we are not on top form. I promise you for the next show we will be back on top form.
Did you have yourself a good holiday, a good New Year's? Did you do anything fun?
I had a fantastic holiday period, which isn't always the case. Sometimes I feel like there's too much pressure on the holidays to be enjoyable, and then you just end up being miserable. But this year we had a great time. Christmas Day, a couple of our friends came over. We had if you have a Friendsgiving, do you have a Friendsmas? Let's say
it could be a Friendsmas.
Yeah, we had a Friendsmas. So we had a couple of friends over. We made pie. So we had spinach and mushroom pie with mashed potato and salad. Delicious. And then we had some drinks and we went to the movies actually to see Nosferatu, which came out on Christmas Day.
I've heard some people say it was amazing, and then I heard some people say it's not as great as everyone's kind of going on about that. There's some weird, not continuity issues, but some time lapse issues. But anyways, I've heard good things.
I thought the movie was very well made, but it's a very well-known story as well that I've seen like a number of times before, and so there weren't really any surprises from the story. And so that was kind of the major downside. I believe, Jonathan, do we have something from the chat here?
Yes, we do. Alicia Green is in the chat wishing everybody a happy new year.
Thank you.
Hoping that Luke, Cory, and Jonathan are all here today and are doing well. And
we're close.
And
close
then later she said, Cory, we miss you.
Oh, there you go.
I will be back
your fans
in 2 weeks.
Cry out for your presence.
Anybody else in the chat there, Jonathan, or is it just Alicia for now? Okay, well, if anybody would like to jump into the chat and tell us what you've been doing over Christmas, over the New Year, we would love to know.
I did hear that the Count Dracula, the main, that was one of the best depictions.
Fantastic.
That he was just a complete monster. Like
it's
it was
the same
really,
person
really
who played It in the most recent It
Oh,
films.
the sequel, the newer ones?
Yes. Am I making that up? I think it was. Is it Bill Skarsgård?
I'll look it up.
Yeah, I think so.
Jonathan's going to look it up.
Yeah.
But
right.
yeah, but he anyway, he put on a brilliant voice, very good. Mostly in shadow for the most part, so you never got to see, the monster straight on, which is how it should be.
Sure.
Really. Yeah, the whole cast was actually good, with possibly an exception for Lily Rose Depp, who I don't know, she wasn't selling it to me necessarily.
Okay.
But
you were right about Bill.
Okay, very good. So yeah, right. So anyway, I recommend checking out that movie, whether it be streaming or going to the theater, unless you don't like horror movies, in which case you probably shouldn't bother. But yeah, New Year's, of course, we did a few things. Number one, we went and played pool. This is my wife and I. We went and played pool. Played 5 games of pool, and it was very even. So let's just call it a draw, because we're very well matched.
Each won 2.5 games?
Yeah, we each won 2.5 games. There were some interesting things that happened. I did manage to chip the ball and make it fly off the table.
Wow, very good.
That was exciting.
Say you put a little English on it.
Exactly. I'll say we'll put a bit of English on it. And then we went to an escape room.
Oh, nice.
Now, this is our 3rd escape room.
Okay.
All at the same place. They have 6 different rooms. If anybody is familiar with it, it's called 62 Escape. It's a fantastic place.
Oh, yeah.
So we had escaped the first 2. We went into this one with some trepidation because it was listed as one of the harder ones, and we didn't think we would escape. But we did, with 5 minutes left.
Nice.
Easy
We did an escape room in New York as well.
Oh, you're
and
kidding.
we escaped with about 3 to 5 minutes left.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I'm starting to get slightly suspicious that they deliberately assist people to escape so that you leave feeling good and you want to do it again.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it from a marketing standpoint, like they don't want you.
Yeah.
And I know they were giving us some clues because it was
Right.
my wife and 2 kids, and
Yep.
this one was a little harder than I expected. There was some. It was the one we did was you were on a rescue pod coming up to a disabled ship,
Okay.
and you needed to get it jump started and
Oh, cool.
get
That
it
sounds
going.
awesome.
But one of the things that was kind of cool and I picked up on is during the instructions, he said you have to jump start it.
Okay.
Well, then we found cables, so we realized then we had to run the cables from the one pod to the other.
Yes.
So they do pretty good job of sneaking in all these different clues.
Well, did you have a video
job.
screen where they would pop up audio and visual of assistance as well?
Yeah, it was just audio, but like
Okay.
there was screens that would pop up though for specific parts of the like. Once we got the auxiliary power, then we got the last message from the captain who told us stuff, and we went it was my my confusion when I read the place. It was called Escape VR,
Okay.
and it talked about all this VR experience.
I remember you telling me about this,
and then they
before you
talked
went,
about. Yeah, well, my understanding is the way it was kind of the way I read it, which was wrong. I thought the escape rooms
Was
were
in
VR,
VR, yeah.
but it wasn't. They're just plain old escape rooms.
Oh, okay.
So they have escape rooms upstairs and then VR downstairs.
Oh, okay. Turns out though that regular escape rooms are awesome. So I mean,
Yeah, they were fun.
Yeah. From the chat, Jonathan.
So we have Blind Country Records in the chat
Okay.
asking if we're planning to make more videos on Ally.
Yes, we are. In
Yes.
fact, our next video will be a follow-up on the Ally video. The one that we made already was kind of a jokey end-of-year one.
Yeah.
But we will be diving in a little bit deeper with some of its features in our next video, which will be releasing, let's see, we're filming it next Friday, so it will be 2 weeks after that it would release. So,
and it will focus more on the smartphone side
Yes,
of it.
exactly.
And actually, I mean, like you said, Luke, it was more of a funny thing, but we'll actually show some use cases for it and how it can benefit you out and about.
Indeed.
All that
That's
kind of
the
stuff.
plan. So the final thing that I did for New Year's Eve was my wife and I went to a wine bar.
Okay.
I'm proud to say I've reached the age of 41 without having ever gone to a wine bar.
Okay.
So this is my first wine bar experience. Now, turns out it was in a strip mall. I booked this sight unseen just based on reviews.
Sure.
It was in a strip mall, which we go to regularly, but it was kind of like tucked away. When I found out it was in the strip mall, I was like, okay, this can't be good. Like, you don't expect a fine establishment to be in a strip mall.
Sure.
Turns out it was actually fantastic. It was like you went in the door and you were just transported to a whole new universe, the universe of wine, if you will. Excellent decor, nice staff, good wine, obviously, and then fantastic food. So we sat at the bar and we got chatting to some people next to us and just had a really lovely time all in all. So
That's good.
yeah. And you were in New York.
I was in New York. We left the day after Christmas, 26th, and then we came back the 30th because I didn't want to really be there for New Year's just because how crazy it gets.
That's a shame. That's a shame because I had told a client that you were there, and I told them because they said they were going to be watching the ball drop. I told them to listen out for you because you have a loud voice, and so yeah, exactly. So they would probably be able to tell if you were there. Yeah.
It is. I mean, it's one of these things that I know a few people who are blind, who are super confident travelers who hit the streets of New York on their own, and going there just really gave me a new appreciation. Like I feel like I'm a pretty independent traveler, but man, we did the subway. It is. Now being there right around holiday time.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Wall to wall.
That's the craziest time to go, yeah.
It was great. My kids had a blast. We saw a Broadway show, The Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, which I'll say right now really quick. Some of the effects that they do in that show, I'm not even sure how they do it. So one of them, there's 3 of them on stage, three actors, and they take this polyjuice potion, which basically changes you from one person to the next, to another person. And they're just standing on stage and they tuck their hands in their head into their cloak that they're wearing, and then they pop out as the other actor.
What?
I have no idea.
Very impressive.
Some of the I mean, it literally looked like magic happening on the stage. So
it is Harry Potter.
Yeah, it was great. 3-hour show, but I never felt bored.
That
once,
sounds amazing.
Which is not the same for our Tech Connect Live.
That's a 45-minute show, but it feels like 3 hours.
Yeah, exactly.
No, that's really cool. I'm not into Harry Potter, but I would like to see that show just to see the effects. From the chat, sorry, Jonathan, did we have something?
Yes, we have Greg Wanschneider, who is doubting that Cory would be loud. Nah, not Cory.
Surely not.
Never.
No.
And explaining that one of their highlights was pizza rolls for New Year's Eve.
Okay.
So it sounds like they had a little bit more.
Hopefully
chill
Totino's.
time.
Yeah, pizza rolls.
That's really the only.
Which
I
ones?
officially know that I'm old now because we did nothing for I made it to midnight.
Yep.
But my daughter had friends over. My son had a friend over, and we stayed home. Usually we host a party, but because we were coming home on the 30th, we didn't end up hosting this there. So, anyways, yes, we had a house full of teenagers, and I was in bed by about 12:15.
That's not bad. I mean, having the teenagers there, that was your party.
There you go.
You know what I mean? Like you vicariously had a party through your kids, basically.
That is true.
So, yeah, it's good enough.
That is true.
I mean, I don't think anybody should feel pressured to do anything on New Year's Eve because it's too. It's just too hyped up. It's almost better. Like my wife and I, exactly. My wife and I, like all of our activities were daytime activities. We got home from the wine bar by about 10 o'clock. So it's not like we were out partying all night, and that was perfect. That was absolutely
Have
perfect.
you ever heard of this? There's a tradition. My daughter and her two friends did. Right at midnight, you have from 12 to 12:01. You have to sit under a table and eat 12 grapes. Yes. And if you get it done, you get love and prosperity or something. You have heard of it, Jonathan?
I have heard of this.
Did you do it, Jonathan?
I actually did a more difficult version of that.
Okay.
Where you have to eat one of these grapes for every clock chime at midnight.
Oh, cool.
12 grapes
on the chime, yeah.
30 seconds.
Okay.
Oh, jeez. Okay.
I didn't finish them. I didn't make a mess or anything. So.
The pro move is to swallow them whole.
No.
I was worried about choking out because the three of them were under the table laughing, chowing down, juices going everywhere. But I mean, it again just shows you being an adult now. Like I was like, don't choke.
Yeah, I know.
Everybody
exactly,
okay?
Yeah. It happens to us all, sad but true. Yeah. And as the years progress, well, we only get older. That's how that works. Happy 2025, everyone.
Wisest thing you've ever said.
Why, thank you. I'm feeling enlightened in this new year, obviously.
I like it.
Well, we should probably talk about something to do with assistive technology. I would actually be quite happy just to keep on chatting about random things, but I guess our audience probably would like us to talk about something relevant. So, what we're going to talk about, we were very kindly invited to something called the AI-Assisted Vision Mini Workshop, Opportunities and Challenges of Intelligent Assistive Technologies for Blind and Low Vision Individuals. This was
rolls right off the tongue.
Yeah, it really does. Yeah, this was at the University of Wisconsin-Madison.
That's correct.
Okay, in Madison, where Jonathan used to go to college. And it was in a building that Jonathan used to work in, I found out today.
Indeed.
Yes, in the computer sciences building.
Okay, so yeah.
Yeah, and we were invited there by Professor Yuhang Zhao. I hope I'm saying that right. Probably not, but I tried. And basically what this was a short conference where students primarily, but also professors, were presenting their ideas for artificial intelligence products relating to people with vision loss. Hopefully that all made sense. So basically we sat through some presentations. They were quite quick fire, usually like 5 to 10 minutes, per presentation. And it was and they were very kind of like, at the moment, they're all in the conceptual stages, more than anything else. But basically, different ways that AI might be useful in the future for people with vision loss, and those, some which were pretty interesting. So we just thought we would talk about those today and maybe give some thoughts. I might have thoughts, Cory might have thoughts, Jonathan might have thoughts as well.
Maybe something to update throughout the year.
Yeah, well, if anything else comes out of it.
Right,
Yes.
I thought it was interesting to be able to come and see what students are kind of working on these projects, seeing how they might benefit people who are blind or visually impaired. And the other thing that I found interesting, and I don't know how you felt, Luke, but I left not feeling like sometimes you see these projects coming out of think tanks, especially at universities, where it's like this has no purpose. Like one example that sort of pops to my head, and this is my personal opinion. People might differ and say there's a use case, but like I've seen, mobility shoes that as you walk, it vibrates to tell you that a curb is coming, or it just things to me that seem like they took something and just try to make a project out of it rather than actually making it useful.
I guarantee you, though, there will be at least some people with vision loss who would say, yeah, I want that. But yeah, it's probably fairly limited. I mean, today, Cory, today I came into work. I went on our YouTube channel. I looked at the comments, as I do.
Yeah.
And we had some somewhat negative comments over Christmas. I don't know if people were just feeling grumpy. But this one particular comment was about our Good Maps video, which we did quite a long time ago.
Yeah.
And they basically said, I don't see the point of this Good Maps. Why not just use your O&M skills and be my eyes? Ah.
Sure.
And I replied.
How did they spell?
It was A-A-A-A-A-A-R-R-R-G-G-G-G-H-H.
Okay,
Exclamation.
gotcha.
Yeah. But my reply was, well, yes, O&M skills are obviously really important, and you could use Be My Eyes, but if you're going into a large, unfamiliar building, the person that you connect with on Be My Eyes isn't going to know the building at all.
Yeah.
And so, if Good Maps is available as a tool for helping you get around this unfamiliar space, why would you not want that? You know what I mean? So, I don't know. Sometimes you just have to, just think outside of your personal, your personal needs and think about how it could be useful,
And I think that's probably, especially regarding this conference, that is a hard thing to do sometimes, because you tend to, especially I think if you're visually impaired yourself, you immediately look at how it will affect your life. How can it benefit you?
Exactly, yeah.
And if it doesn't benefit you, it is easy to jump to the quick. This is pointless.
This is rubbish. Yeah, exactly.
And so, I agree with you that there's always going to be something where somebody loves and somebody hates.
Exactly. It's the way of the world. Quick thing here: if anybody has been using artificial intelligence throughout 2024, then let us know. I know we've talked about this a lot at this point, but let us know in the chat if you've been doing anything cool with AI in 2024. Cory, for those people who are using a screen reader and might not know how to get into the chat, could you let them know?
Yeah, well, that's a great question.
Thank you.
First of all, you do need to be signed. You do need to have a Google or YouTube account. So you need to be signed in. I won't go through that process because we'll be here for a while.
Yes.
Otherwise, if you're just on our live page and you're logged in, you should be able to just use your E key if you want to move by edit field. You will eventually get to the comments box. I don't know how many presses it is. I should maybe check because I didn't know you were going to put me on the spot.
Sorry about that.
Otherwise, sometimes what I'll do is a virtual find for the word comment, and you can pop down there too.
Okay, thank you. All right, so let's talk about the first of these. I will give us the title here.
Yes.
Okay. Salient AR, using augmented reality to make salient objects more visible. Now, I believe, Cory, that this one was looking at both marking out things like if you're navigating on the street, and you want or you need certain things to be pointed out, such as, for example, where the curb is, maybe, or where a lamp post is, or a crossing, but then also for looking at other objects as well, like say that you were cooking and you wanted to find out where the utensils were and things like that.
Now, just a quick thing, just for those that don't know, and you may, for those that know it, just bear with us for a second. Quick difference between VR, virtual reality, and AR, augmentative reality, is in virtual reality, you're in a completely virtual space. Your vision is basically closed off, and you are seeing whatever the head mounted goggles or whatever you might be wearing is presenting you as your environment. The AR is when you still have vision, where you can still see your environment around you, but we're augmenting it, we're changing it. So an example, like Luke just said, was maybe you're out on the street and a street sign is bolded so you can better see it, or a mailbox has a black box around it, highlighting it for you. If I remember correctly, Luke, in this example for this project, and please tell me if I'm wrong, this was the one where they demonstrated someone playing tennis, right? Where the ball itself had a box around it so you could track the ball as it was coming towards you.
I absolutely call shenanigans on that personally, but yeah, they did have that as part of the video.
Yeah.
And they said it was somebody with a vision impairment. Now, honestly, like the level of highlighting that was going on with the ball didn't really seem to be sufficient for, you know, I mean, I don't know. It just seemed a little bit pie in the sky in terms of the feasibility of that. But some of the other stuff looked pretty good. Like, okay, so imagine that you're walking down the street, you have these AR glasses on, and let's say in front of you are important objects are being highlighted. So for example, maybe like we said already, the side of a curb or a crossing, or maybe some obstacles that are in your path. And maybe they have different highlight colors as well, depending on their level of importance or what it is that the highlight is denoting. Is it an obstacle? Is it a crossing? Is it whatever? And so, you know, the tricky part there is, what is a salient object? What is an important object that needs to be highlighted? And I think that's something that they were kind of trying to figure out, but maybe that would be customizable as well to some extent. Yeah, I mean, you could definitely see the utility of that as a low vision user, just making things stand out a little bit more, so that you can either use them or avoid them, depending on what you're trying to do. Again, in the kitchen, you know, maybe knives are highlighted in a particular color, so you can see where they are, because potentially they could be a hazard. You know, maybe you're looking for a specific object in the kitchen, and that object can be highlighted to make it stand out. And all of this, of course, is being done through AI to help identify what the specific object is that it's supposed to be highlighting.
And I think one of the things they sort of, I think either somebody from the crowd mentioned this, or they did, but the thought process could even be taking it to the next step, where the glasses through AI know what recipe you're cooking in the kitchen. And then when you look in the fridge or look in your spice rack or whatever, it highlights the ingredients and where they are, so that you can more quickly locate and grab them. Which today probably not so much, but I absolutely would be able. I mean, that seems like as long as you have your things sort of facing the right way and so forth, that's absolutely a use case I could see them working on. Yeah,
for sure. And I mean, you could do this stuff with sighted assistants, but Cory, let me ask you, as a person who is blind, if the AI stuff like that we're talking about here, and I know we're talking about highlighting, but let's just pretend, it's some kind of audio thing instead, right?
Well, if it's already identifying it for highlighting purposes, they can easily convert that
audio
to
cues.
text to speech.
Okay.
So for sure.
Okay, so let's say that that's happening. Like, would you prefer to use the AI side of things, because then you wouldn't have to rely on another person, or would you prefer to use another person just on the basis that the person is probably cleverer than the AI, and it might be more reliable,
Yeah, I mean, for me,
no, that's true.
For me personally, something I've often said is, like, when I wake up in the morning, I've got a list of 20 things I need to do, and I realize that 10 of them need some kind of assistance, sighted assistance.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to prioritize that list, because I am often conscious about how much I'm asking people for help. It's right or wrong, it's a thing that I live with. I don't want to over ask people, even if it's my kids or my wife. And so the answer to your question is, I would absolutely rely on AI to know that I could do it, more independently. Not that asking for help is a problem whatsoever, but if I can do something where I can leave another task, that I need help for, then that's great. And being able to do it, the glasses part is kind of cool in the fact that it's hands-free. That's always been a bit of the issue I have in the kitchen with a phone, is you can do a lot of this already with your phone, but if you're a low vision or blind cook, your hands are always dirty because you're just doing way more with your hands. And so it's very difficult to pick your phone up. And, so having something head mounted does make a huge difference as well.
Yeah, totally.
Just being making it so much easier.
And we should mention all of these are very much in the early prototype stages, so don't expect to see this on the market anytime soon, but I think it was a pretty interesting project.
Was this the one, Luke, where they were also talking about doing it indoors, including like an arrow pointing in which direction?
No, that was a different one. That was a different one. Yeah, we'll talk about that one.
Okay, yep.
All right, so the next one, VR Site, automating real-time visual VR scene accessibility. So the idea behind this one was basically using artificial intelligence to identify objects in virtual reality games. So you would have a virtual reality headset, and if you are a blind user, then the virtual reality headset really is not accessible because it's primarily presenting a visual virtual environment for you to interact with. Now, they do tend to have like spatial audio and stuff like that, so there is some elements of, that could be useful to somebody who's blind, but primarily, if you get a VR headset and try to play a game, then you wouldn't be able to do it. So the idea behind this was to create an additional layer in between yourself and the game, which would be interpreting the objects in the game and presenting those to you in an audible format. So you could hear, for example, if you're in a virtual space, what was in that virtual space, what things were interactable within that space, and so on and so forth. Now, we didn't actually necessarily see a demo of this, and it works in a very limited capacity at the moment. But I like the idea of making VR accessible because, everything should be accessible. But Cory, can you imagine yourself playing a VR game versus just playing a game on your phone, for example? Like, is there any benefit to that?
Well, I think the benefit for, I think it'll depend on the game, right? I mean, I think if it is a mainstream game that people really enjoy and it can be made accessible, then you get to be part of a discussion and be part of something that other people are.
That's true. Yeah.
That's always. I mean, I think audio games specifically for the blind and visually impaired have a use case and have a space, no question. But it, to me, though, is just another kind of example of being segregated. Like, here, these are the audio games that you can play. Only other blind people talk about them. You can't ever really talk about them with your sighted, colleagues or friends or family. So I think from that case, it would be great to be able to, to have the same access.
Yeah, I can imagine it must be quite difficult if you're talking about like a faster paced action game to be able to present the information to you audibly in a way that makes sense and allows you to react, in the correct time. So maybe it would only work with like certain types of specific games where you're more in a static environment. Maybe like a virtual reality escape room, for example, Cory, where you're trying to kind of solve clues and there's not a ton of kind of reflex actions or anything like that.
And I think you got to think big picture too, outside of games. Like, this might be a dystopian type view, but if you look at Ready Player One, their whole world, school, working, play, pleasure, was all in virtual reality.
Sure.
Is that the future? And if so, then things like this is going to ensure access, for people to work from home in virtual reality, and which obviously in a lot of cases would be much easier to do than fast-paced games and things like that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, consider if we consider the numbers of units of VR headsets sold over the last decade, we're probably not going to turn into a VR future. You know what I mean? Like, people haven't really been super keen on the uptake.
No, probably not. But I don't. I could sure see it happening.
Well, I do have to admit that my mom does have an Oculus Quest, and she said that she bought a zombie game and she just figured out how to get the shotgun out.
Nice.
But she can't get past the first level. After further interrogation, I found out the zombie game was Resident Evil 4, for those who are interested. And my mom is very bad at it. So
that's funny.
From the chat, Jonathan?
Yes, we have Charlie Turner in the chat.
Hello, Charlie.
Asking, this might be a bit of a diversion, but they're asking if we've heard of the Hable One. and I linked them to a previous live show we did in March of 2023 on the Hable. That's the
keyboard? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Yes, we do. Yes, we know. I don't think we don't own it. We don't own one ourselves, but we did do a show on it.
Did we have a live guest for that one, Jonathan?
That one, yes. We did an interview
I thought we
with
did.
A man named Freck
Igor?
or
Oh,
Freak.
Freak.
Oh,
that was,
yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, it seemed like a cool keyboard. You could do it with one hand, I think, right? And it was like it wasn't like standard letters, right? It was like, was it Braille or was it?
I think it was a 6-button
I think
thing.
it's primarily Braille input.
Yes. And you could stick it on the back of your phone, right?
I wonder if there have been any updates on that.
I don't know. It's been a bit since I.
No. Maybe we'll do an update show on it this year.
There is another one.
Sure.
Greg Wattensnyder.
Hello, Greg.
Juan Snyder.
Juan Schneider. Yeah.
Yes. When we got into the topic of accessible games, he highly recommended something called Night Manager. Night as in the Knights Templar, but Night Manager for Alexa.
Oh, cool.
Says it will always and forever be the best audio game.
Oh, okay. Well,
Nice, okay.
I think we should do a show where you play that game, Cory.
We could. You know what? Greg is local too. He's in Waukesha. We should bring him in. He could come and do a
Show
video
us how it's done.
with us. We'll try it out.
I love the idea of a really high quality audio game. I'm guessing it's like a choose your own adventure type job, but who knows? Take sword and strike evil thing. Sorry, sword was only +3. Evil thing was +5. You fail.
Find a bigger sword.
Find a bigger sword. Okay, next one. Empowering low vision people using eye tracking and AI. Okay, so this was specifically for people.
Oh yeah, you knew a lot about this. Yep.
And the basic idea is that when people are reading, if they have things magnified, then it can be difficult for them to track the sentences, particularly when moving to a new sentence. So if you think about when you get to the end of a sentence, now you've got to go back all the way back to the left to the beginning of the next sentence. Or if you're Chinese, I guess you're going all the way to the right. So it depends on which way you're reading. But either way, you've got to move the eyes and try and find the next sentence. Well, with this AI tracking thing that they had going on, it was literally tracking your eye position. There is a calibration that you do, first of all, and then as you read, it's tracking your eye position and it knows where you are in the line that you're reading. Now, a couple of things with that. Number one, it can highlight as you read to help you focus on this particular word that you're on, and it knows which word you're on. So it can highlight at the speed that you're reading. It's not a preset speed, you see, because it knows where your eyes are. So it can highlight, but also if you hover your eyes on a word, then it thinks, oh, okay, maybe they can't quite read this word. I will read it out loud to them. So then it will read it out loud to them. Now, Cory said,
if I remember correctly, besides reading out loud, it also made it bigger.
Yes, that makes sense.
It made it
well.
even bigger for you to kind of see it better.
Made it bigger. And Cory said if you blink 3 times, then it will give you the dictionary definition of the word as well. Now, he was this was in the pre-show. He was joking, but I actually seem to remember there was some kind of feature like that, to be quite honest with you. Unfortunately, this was a few weeks ago, and we have had the holidays in between, so we don't necessarily remember all the details. But the other thing is, once you got to the end of the line, it would help you get to the start of the next line. And so it would go ahead and place some kind of visual indicator at the beginning of the next line that you need to read, like a big arrow, for example, pointing to the next line, so that once you've got all the way back over to the left, you know what line you're on. I actually think. Oh, go ahead. I was just going to say, I actually thought this was really neat and potentially very useful. Depending on how accurate the eye tracking stuff is. But yeah, it seemed like a great idea.
Yeah, I mean, even on like current video magnification devices now, you can do shading so that only one line is visible, but that doesn't help you get back to the beginning of the next line down. Even when you're windowing out everything but just that line, you can easily, when you swing your XY tray back, you can easily come down 2-3 lines sometimes, and not really recognize that that it happened. So I think that visual cue just really does make a lot of sense.
Yeah, it would be great to see this type of technology just built into Windows as standard, for example. And then when you're on a web page, you can kind of activate it. And now you'd obviously have to have like a webcam or use your laptop's, camera or whatever. But providing there's some kind of camera there for the eye tracking, then, it just automatically kind of kicks in. I can see a lot of potential for this type of thing just to be built into computers. So yeah, that one, I like it. I like it a lot. Okay, next one. This is the one you were talking about, Cory. VisiMark. Yes. Characterizing and augmenting landmarks for people with low vision. Why don't you tell us about this one?
Yeah, so this one they talked about kind of two different use cases, primarily working indoors, again, wearing an AR headset. And so it was similar to the first one we talked about, where it is doing some highlighting of things as you're moving around the building. So it could be a water fountain, a bubbler, as we call it here in the Midwest, or things like that.
If it's a bubbler, does that mean it gives you champagne? Is that how that works?
Yes,
okay,
bubbly.
So come to the Midwest, and they are all champagne dispensers for free.
It's Miller Lite and all of our
yeah, good point. Yeah.
And then the other piece, though, was for indoor navigation. So as you came up to an intersection, it was a T or whatever it might be indoors, two hallways coming together, you'd see a floating arrow letting you know which direction to go in.
Yes.
And I think, to me, I see that to becoming something that happens sooner than later, not just because it's going to benefit low vision and blind users, but it's going to benefit mainstream, right? If you go think about, if AR, something AR, either your phone, which most likely it would be your phone versus a headset, to be able to go into a busy hospital, put in the room you want to go to, and then just walk with your phone, and it's giving you directions versus, trying to follow the yellow line or the green pointer or whatever, So I have a feeling we'll probably see something like that sooner than later.
Yeah. So the way that this one worked was they had to program in those specific landmarks, and they had only tested. They basically did it on one specific corridor in the building there. And so they had different icons representing different things. For example, a room was denoted with a star, and the name of the room was underneath the star. A fountain was denoted by a eye, like an informational, and then underneath it said water fountain. Those arrows that you were talking about, Cory, they also included a horizontal line at the end of the arrow if that was like a dead end, like a wall, for example. So there would be like an arrow pointing to the left, and then it would have a line to show you that there was a wall there, and it would basically represent exactly where that wall was visually. So then, what else did they have? The elevator that they had with a icon of somebody in a wheelchair. So
I think in many, many, many cases, this is very similar to what Good Maps is doing already. Good Maps is coming in, scanning with LiDAR, and then using your cameras to determine where you are in that building, and then give you directions from that spot. And you're able, with LiDAR or with that Good Maps, you're able to label all of those rooms and everything. So I think it's very similar to...
One thing that this could do, though, I think, is you could be a bit more granular. So if you walk into a fitness center, you could actually have the machines labeled individually, which I don't think Good Maps is really designed for so much. Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of human work to make this possible for this one little corridor. So I had mentioned the possibility of crowdsourcing it out so that people could upload, landmarks into a global place, and then anybody using this would then have those updates available. So obviously over time, then more and more places would be added. Now, there would have to be some kind of quality control, because otherwise some pranksters might go in and start labeling, all sorts of crazy things. But I mean, this indoor navigation, it's it's been a thing on the radar of assistive technology for quite a while now, and as of yet, there's still no definitive solution. So it's cool to see these other ideas popping up. And it makes you wonder, like, when is this just going to become a standardized thing? And it still feels like we're a long way off of that at the moment. So let's talk about one more and then wrap it.
Yep.
Let's do...
What about the social cues one?
Okay, we'll do the social cues one, but I don't know there's that much to talk about. So the basic idea is the title of this one was Social AR exploring visual-based cues for social interactions.
I actually thought this one was super interesting and could be quite helpful for people who are blind for sure, but also low vision.
I agree, and even people with other issues like I think people with autism are known for not necessarily understanding social cues, but this might be of assistance there. Why don't you tell us about it, Cory?
I mean, ADHD individuals can tend to. So my son sometimes can misread cues, so. Basically, what this was going to do was, again, with some kind of input, either goggles or your phone, it would be able to scan and present body language or visual, social cues, and highlight them and kind of give you either a heads up of what is happening. So one example could be, let's say I'm talking to someone, I ask for directions, and they just point. Obviously, that's not something I'll be able to pick up on, but with this, it would be able to see that the individual pointed and then convert that, into letting me know that they pointed, or a nod of the head, or even a smile, or whatever it might be. So picking up all of those social cues and then translating those back to the individual to let them know that they're happening if you're blind, or maybe explaining to an individual, like you mentioned, with someone with autism or something who may not pick up on that cue or understand what that cue is, be able to explain what it is too. So I think the really hard thing with this one is, number one, there is no, you really have to sit down and get a really huge list of social cues to feed in. But number two, social cues across cultures mean different things. So, I don't have an example off the top of my head. But,
I do.
Oh, yeah, good. Go for it.
Well, not necessarily. I don't know the specific places, but I do know that a nod in some cultures is a positive, like a yes, but in other cultures, that's a negative, a no. So
sure.
Or in India, where it just is like an acknowledgement thing.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, so I mean, those are those examples then where you have to be able to choose sort of your culture or your whatever, to be able to get accurate social cue, unless it's not, if it's more just identifying the cue, that's one thing, right? If it just says a nod, then you will interpret that however your culture is based. If they're trying to do any type of identification and explanation, that's where the cultural differences are really going to come in.
Yes. But yeah, the reason I said that that this one there wasn't a lot to talk about necessarily is not because it's not a good idea, but just because we never really saw how this, I don't think it had even been decided like how the information was going to be relayed, like how this was going to work.
No.
Like the artificial intelligence would both have to see the gesture and also know that the gesture was directed toward you. And so, that's a part of the challenge here, because somebody might gesture when they're not even looking, toward you. But it might be a gesture for you. So that's part of the challenge there. And also, how do you relay that information? How do you relay that somebody has made some kind of gesture? Is it audio? Is there some kind of haptic feedback? What is it exactly? So, I remember, Cory, seeing a video like years ago from Google where they were actually, doing the same thing here. They were, the video consisted of somebody wearing Google Glass, I assume, and they were walking on the Google campus on a sunny day outside on a path, and somebody walked up to them and started conversing with them, and the Google Glass was relaying the facial expressions, the mood of the person. So this type of thing has been around conceptually for quite a while, and I do think eventually it is something that will come to pass, but how long that's going to take is anybody's guess.
And I think what you highlighted makes a lot of sense too. I think that there's really two pieces to this puzzle. The first piece is getting the technology to identify whatever it is, getting the AI to identify the individual talking to you, smiling. And I think in some case, and maybe I'm overthinking this, but in some cases, I think that might be the easier piece. The second piece is, how do you relay that information in a way that doesn't interrupt the conversation or the whatever you're doing but it not only does it not interrupt, but it gives it to you in a timely fashion. I don't want it to tell me that the person was smiling as once they're gone.
Right.
You know, you need to, how do you present that in a way that's going to be quick, seamless, you know, and I don't think words is the right way. I don't want to walk up to you and you're talking to me in the same time in my ear. There's somebody in front of you. I think his name is Luke. He's smiling at you. He's not, you know, it's like, you know. So yeah, I think
what you need is the brain port to draw that information on your tongue. There we go.
There
we have solved the problem.
So Greg
can't talk, but
Greg in the chat is recommending haptics for these types of verbal or these social cues.
Yeah, and I just wonder how you would do that though. It's like 1 buzz for smile, 2 buzzes for frown, like, you know what I mean?
And that brings up the cognitive overload.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, so now you've got to, you know, you're talking probably 100 social cues. Obviously, we can't have 100 different, but I agree with Greg. I do think haptics is probably going to play a very big role in it. But how do you make it in a way that's natural and you're not like looking in your manual? What does 27 short buzzes mean? Oh, they smiled.
Don't you know Morse code, Cory? Come on, come on, it's easy.
Exactly.
All right, let's wrap it. You know, I've got to go have my lunch. It's the new year, and I've got some.
I'm going to the dentist. So
Cory's going to the dentist, so it's time to shut it all down. But thank you everybody for joining us today. Cory, I would say that we started off the year with a. So that's not too bad, exactly. It's 2025. Nice. It's time to, it's time to get those New Year's resolutions underway. What was yours, Cory?
My New Year's resolution was not to make a New Year's resolution.
That's a great resolution. Have you managed? Have you succeeded in doing that so far?
No, I made one. No, I'm just kidding. So far, so good.
It is the second, so everybody's resolutions are probably falling apart by now. I hope everybody has a good rest of your holiday if you are indeed still on holiday. If you are not, then I hope you have a good day at work or whatever you might be doing. And we will look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks' time. I do not believe that we have a topic specifically set up for that, but of course we will let you know with our email blast as we normally do. And even if you don't get an email blast, just join us anyway, because whatever it's going to be, I'm sure it'll be fun. And the week after our next live show, that's when the next video will be releasing on Ally. So a bit more of a deep dive into Ally. Yep. Please do make sure to check out all of our videos from last year if you didn't get a chance to. You are on our YouTube channel, so they should be readily available. And we did have a good year for videos. I think our production quality continued to increase. Jonathan's been doing a great job with the editing and making Cory and I look at least somewhat presentable. So thank you to him. And we did do a little video over Christmas on Ally, if anybody hasn't seen that. It's a bit more of a jokey one, but it will give you an idea of what Envision Ally is all about if you don't know. So with that being said, Happy New Year. Let's do a sound effect. I have no idea what this one is. There you go. That's a New Year sound effect. That was a good one. I liked it.
Use that once a year.
Yeah, only once a year, exactly. And we shall look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks' time. All right. Bye for now.
Bye all.
Thanks for joining us for another Tech Connect Live. If you enjoyed Cory and Luke's antics, be sure to join us next time. For all things Tech Connect, go to vision-forward.org/techconnect.